Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I will talk about my experience with the Larsen Virtuoso strings. In my opinion, it is a great string and I will tell you why in this video. At the end of this video I will tell you a discount code on the shop polychord.com. They sponsor my strings so I can make review videos for you. I will give you a discount code about 10% for until end of August. First off, let us start with the technical details. The Larsen Virtuoso strings are synthetic core strings. Let me just read you what the materials are. The Virtuoso E string is made using a unique carbon steel, while the A, D and G strings build on a new, pioneering, synthetic multi-filament core. The A string is wound with precision rolled aluminium flat wire. The D and G strings with pure silver. The tension of the string, you can see in this chart right here, is very low. They are strings with one of the lowest tension in the overall set. But they are also in two different gauges available, so that you have a very big spectrum between very soft tension and also a set with very high tension, which is in the strong set of the Larsen Virtuoso strings. My experience overall with this string is very positive. As I played this string the first time, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, I was really blown away by the quality of the string and how good it fits my playing style and my violin. The playability, due to the low tension of the overall set, is so much easier compared to other strings. I was coming, of course, from the Eva Pirazzi strings before I played the Larsen Virtuoso strings, so it made a huge difference. But also other strings sometimes feel very hard compared to the Larsen Virtuoso set. This brings some benefits. For example, if you have low tension strings like the Larsen Virtuoso strings, you have an easier time vibrating, you have an easier time making shifts, or also called position changes on the violin. Even playing in tune gets easier. So intonation is easier because the small muscles don't have to press so hard. There's a note in the book of Ruggeri Ricci, a very, very good violinist who passed away some years ago. And he says it is very important for every violinist to keep control over how easy your violin is to play, which has to do with the bridge height also, but also with the tension of the strings. If you play a lot of pieces with big chords and double stops, then you probably want a string which is not in the highest tension. What sometimes is a problem with strings which don't have so high tension is that the bow contact and the response of the string feels very soft. Somehow, I don't know if it's the material or if it's the thickness of the string, somehow the Larsen Virtuosos don't have a problem there. And I will later come to strings which I also really like, the Peter Infeld strings, which also feel very soft, but they feel also soft under the bow. With the Virtuoso, you get a soft feeling on the left hand on the fingerboard, but a quite good resistance under the bow, especially when you go with a strong version, of course, but this is another world. We are talking about the medium version right now. In the beginning, when I put those strings on, I noticed a very metallic sound and many overtones. This didn't shock me at all because I was used to it, because I played, before I played the Virtuoso strings, regular Larsen strings and also the Larsen Cigan, which I preferred on my old violin. So now with the Larsen Virtuosos, I wasn't surprised that the beginning was very metallic, and I did know that this will go away quite fast and the strings will settle and there will be some of the metallic noise staying, but that is the characteristicum of the string also, so that you can project better. But the core of the sound will get very warm and actually very strong and also flexible, which you wouldn't expect from the beginning sound of those strings. So if you sometime will try those strings, I would recommend you give them at least a week of regular practice and then decide if you like those strings or not. In my experience, after 3 days of practicing, maybe 3 hours or 4 hours, they are settled and they are at the top of their abilities. Let's talk about projection. Those strings with their low tension should have a problem with projecting, but somehow they don't. Of course, we always want to keep in mind that this will depend on your violin. So if you have a very dark sounding violin, the Larsen Virtuoso strings may be for you. But if you have a very thin sounding violin already, maybe you should try a darker sounding string than the Larsen Virtuoso. But just talking about projection, you should not worry with those strings. But I will come to that again when I talk about the different gauges. Let's talk about the specific strings. Let's start with the G string. I really like the G string for several reasons. First of all, I have a wolf note, especially in the high register at the C natural on the G string. With the Larsen Virtuoso, maybe due to the lower tension of those strings, this wolf note gets much better and it is close to being playable. With other higher tension strings, the wolf note on my violin gets worse. Overall, the sound of the G string is very focused, but also flexible when you play the string in for a while and you know how to produce sound on this string. For example, I would recommend you to use more bow and a lighter bow if you want to have a warm and open sound with the string. But you can also go very deep into the string and get a focused, very projecting sound. The D string is also, from the feeling, very flexible, very easy to play. And if you want the sound to be projecting, you will get it. But if you want a warm sound, you will get it as well. It may not be the warmest sound you will ever get out of a violin, but there we are again on the point what violin you use and what strings you use. You always want to have your strings fit your violin or like countering some weaknesses of your violin. And also your strings should always serve your needs. For example, I need a little bit of projection when I play with other people because I don't want to press so much and overdo it always. I think every violinist wants some projection and wants to be heard. So if you have a dark sounding instrument, definitely I would tell you consider those strings. When we come to the A string, it's a little bit different right here because you cannot talk on the A string about a warm sound or something because the register of course is higher. I think the A string fits the set very well and it's also very balanced and built in between the transition from the D to the E string. So I always use the A string together with the whole set. And due to its low tension, the A string, regarding A strings, it is quite flexible in sound and easy to play, like the other strings as well. About the E string normally I would replace with other brands, but with this set, the Larsen Virtuoso, I usually don't bother changing the E string because the E string is so solid and quite neutral to my taste, so that I don't have a reason to change it out. And also it lasts quite long. It has a flexible sound and it has some brightness to it and it has definitely some projection. Let us talk a little bit about the two different gauges. One is medium and one is strong. The medium string I talked about a lot because I would refer to it as the standard Larsen Virtuoso string. It is quite projective as well, but there is of course a limit because you have the low tension. Sometimes when I have to play with an orchestra maybe as a soloist, or if I know I have to play really loud and project very well. For example, the venue where I play, the hall, isn't the best and there will be some issues with hearing myself. Then I will go with the Larsen Virtuoso strong set. As I first played the Larsen Virtuoso strong set, it was really an opening, and even fellow musicians told me that I improved with vibrato and with sound, and they told me that without knowing that I played on this Larsen Virtuoso strong set. And I told them afterwards, yes, I changed the strings today. The Larsen Virtuoso strong set is just as the medium set. There's a little bit more grit to the sound. There's a lot more of bow resistance. You can really, there's like no limit you can go into the string. You can really apply pressure and weight to the string. That depends, of course, on how much your violin will accept also. The only reason why I don't have those strings every time on my violin is that they are so loud that practicing can wear out your ears quite fast. And I don't like to practice with the earplugs, so I only use those strings when I really have to play loud in a concert. And I really want to have this extra edge and projection that those strings offer in a strong tension. The discount code is Simon10. I will put a link in the description to the shop polychord.com, and if you want to try those strings, this is really a chance because the shop is already one of the lowest price in Europe, and if you now get 10%, maybe I will order myself 10 times or something. This is now a good opportunity for you to test those strings if you want to test those strings anyways. If you test those strings, you will not waste your time. It is really good knowing those strings because for some instruments they are really needed. My instrument, for example, is quite warm. It needs some edgy sound and some edgy strings. And while needing those edgy strings, my violin doesn't respond very well to high tension strings. So when I put high tension strings on, I get a wolf note, which makes the violin like unplayable for some notes. With the Larsen Virtuoso, I get some edge and the wolf note gets playable. So thank you for listening and watching. There are some very interesting projects also in the pipeline, so consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up if it helps you. Please write in the comments if you have experiences with the Larsen Virtuoso strings and also with the medium and strong tension. Maybe you haven't tested the strong tension yet. Maybe you should do that right now. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Have a great summer and keep on practicing. Try out the Larsen Virtuoso strings. I will go now and edit the video. Was das?